And how about maybe a best business hack for either hiring this person or maybe to take RevOps to drive sales or scaling the business? I mean, if you take one of those three from a talent perspective, sales perspective, or scaling perspective, what's one piece of advice that you might give?
So my advice on, and it's not necessarily RevOps specific, so bear with me, but I have a term called alternative talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that exists elsewhere, if I created it, I don't know. I've never actually looked it up, but alternative talent to me means hiring for ability rather than for resume. And I'll give two examples. Right? One example is a very impactful consultant that we have on our team who worked as a barista for 10 years and got the certs, got the tactical knowledge, etc., but didn't have fundamentally the experience in the trenches that you would need to be considered a true RevOps person. And so we talked with her, and fundamentally what we noticed was an extraordinarily high level of EQ. Right? You work in customer service for 10 years in an environment like that, you start to understand and empathize with people in a way that is very unique. And so we took that person in, put them through training courses, started to develop, and I can tell you charitably that they are developing faster than 90% of the other students that we put through our programs. Wouldn't have gotten a second look at most other organizations. And that is a critical failure of a hiring plan. If you're looking purely based off of degree or resume or whatever, and not actually talking with the human being on the other side of the table, I know it's hard, but everyone's talking about this, great resignation. I can't find people to stick with my organization. And sometimes I feel that you're just not looking in the right places. The second example, slightly more maybe easy to make the connection. We just hired a 22-year Navy SEAL who's retiring out of the service to come and join our team as a sales person. Never had any enterprise sales experience in the past. And you ask him, when have you sold anything before? And he's like, well, I haven't really. I've not worked in sales or anything like that. And particularly in the software space, that would be pretty much an immediate disqualifier, right? You might get a second interview because he's a SEAL, right? But fundamentally, people are looking for folks who have done it before and who don't need to get taught, right? But you start talking with this guy more so, it's like, oh yeah, well, I actually worked as an advisor to the 4-star general, who did X, Y, and Z, and I ended up lobbying Congress on behalf of the Spec Ops program. And I'm like, well, dude, that's sales, right? That's fundamentally what you're doing. It's like, oh yeah, well, I was in Pashtun and I was talking with the insurgencies there, convincing them to a ceasefire. I'm like, yeah, that's sales too, pal. That's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Right. And again, not orthodox by necessarily, certainly alternative, right? But talent nonetheless. And so what I would say is that your business hack is finding people who don't fit the mold of what you're looking for necessarily, but have all the skills and the talents that you need inside your organization, and taking the flyer when you can and as you can with these folks, because ultimately I've found that they pay off far more than they don't.
Yeah, we call it success characteristics. And we've identified 10 success characteristics that salespeople, or I would argue really anybody, needs. And it gets into, are you trainable? Do you have that growth mindset? Are you gritty, right? Are you, for example, you working your way through college, doing all of that? You likely didn't have to, but you did it. So are you gritty? Do you have a positive expectation of winning? Or just a couple of examples, but that goes across all positions. And so I couldn't agree with you more. I don't even look at the resume. I look at the what their experience is to kind of get a backstory. And then we have the conversation, but you laid it out exactly. Hey, when you're doing this, that's negotiation, that's sales. And it's very easy to go along because that Navy SEAL has discipline, hard work, drive, fully expects to win and is going to carry that themselves really, really well. So wholly agree with that. Love it. Okay. That's a great takeaway there.